Shalom, everybody, and thank you again for tuning in to another lecture about the Temple Mount complex. We have covered a few subjects on Temple Mount. The first one was about the different locations at Temple Mount, such as the Royal Basilica, such as the Holies of Holies, the Hulda Gates, and all of that. Second lecture was from Genesis, from the time of the binding of Isaac, all the way to the destruction of the Second Temple. And this lecture will be about the continuation, what happened at Temple Mount, at the entire complex, from the year 70 AD until today. So let's dive in. I will share the screen with you all. All right. So this was the last slide from the presentation that we have seen 2 days ago. This is the year 70 AD. The temple itself was destroyed. Judea was destroyed, not exiled, by the way. We're going to speak about the exile in a second. The big trauma of the Great Revolt in the year 70 AD was actually the loss of the sovereignty, of the Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel. The next time we're going to have Jewish sovereignty will be only in 1948. So between the year 70 AD all the way, actually 73 if you calculate in Masada as well, all the way to the 20th century, we have no Jewish control, a sovereign control here in the land of Israel. So right after the destruction, between the years 70 and 132 AD, Jerusalem is in ruins. There's no one here apart from a garrison of the 10th Legion that dwells on the north part of the city today, of what today will be some of the Christian part, Christian quarter and the Muslim quarter. And there's no one here. There's no inhabitants. The city itself is completely destroyed. In the year 132 AD, we have an emperor by the name Hadrian. Hadrian Adrianus decides to completely wipe off Jerusalem from the face of the earth, and he's building a city by the name Aelia Capitolina. Aelia Capitolina, Aelia named after him, Elias Hadrian, and he builds basically a city which is very similar to the city wall of today. If you look at this map right over here, this is mostly the layout of the city of today, with one extension down here that doesn't exist in this map, but that's basically the same. Now, if we look very carefully, the entire complex of the city of David right here on the south side of the city is no more. There's nothing here. This is the Kidron Valley. This is the Central Valley. You remember the stairs that led from the Pool of Siloam all the way up to Robinson Arch and to the Southern Steps. All of this, of course, is being destroyed. This used to be the upper city, and this all the way up to here, this point was the city from the time, not from the time of Jesus, a little bit after. The city in the time of Jesus basically ended here. This complex of road right here. Some of the road are built on layout of walls dated to the time of Jesus. Aelia Capitolina is a grid city. As you can see, the Muslim quarter of today is actually a grid city because it was a Roman city. What happened was that Hadrian decided to completely erase the name Judea or Jews from face of history, and he renamed the city Aelia Capitolina instead of Jerusalem, and he changed the name of the province from Judea to Palestine. This because of a revolt between the year 132 and 135, which is called the Bar Kokhba revolt, which at the end of that revolt, we see a massive exile of the Jews from Judea, and we see a major decline in the Jewish population and entry of foreign nations into the land of Israel. This was the case up until the year 325 AD. In the year 325 AD, Christianity becomes the central main religion in the Roman Empire. Emperor Constantinus the Great and his mother Helena. And basically, because Jerusalem is now important again, don't forget, for the pagans, Jerusalem was not that important, Temple Mount was not that important. I failed to say that at Temple Mount during the time of Umayyak Kingdom, there is a small altar for Jupiter. That's it. Nothing fancy, nothing big. And the city itself becomes great again under Eudokia. Eudokia, 5th century AD, around the year 5th and 6th century AD. The city is a huge metroplex. The reason, again, the same as was a huge metroplex, metropolitan before Christianity, under the auspices of the Jews, because it's a holy city. So this time the focus will not be Mount Moriah because of Jesus' prophecies. There will not be a stone on stone here. The emphasis now will be the Byzantine churches. What we have along the 4th century, Empress Helena is walking in different places in Jerusalem and pointing out location that, according to her belief, these are the place of the events of the last week of Jesus. One of them, the most important, of course, is the Church of Holy Sepulchre. Right here, that Helena decided that this is Golgotha. There is no earlier tradition that this is Golgotha, and actually where the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is today used to be a temple of the goddess Venus. So Helena decides that this is the Golgotha, and we have the building of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Today, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is within the city walls, but let's review again the last slide. If this is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre right over here, this is within the city walls, of course, of Umayyak Kingdom, but at the time of Jesus, it was outside the city wall because the city walls were here, at this street roads, right? This system of road. So Helena decided that Holy Sepulchre is the place of Golgotha, and the city started to draw a lot of attention from all over the world. This is a map that was called Map of Medeba, dated to the 6th century AD, was found in a church in Medeba in Jordan, and it is the most intact map that we have of Jerusalem from the time of the Byzantine era. You can actually navigate in the city today using this map that was made more than 1,500 years ago. If we look, for example, we can see here, this is the main square. This is a square of the gate of Damascus. These gates and this square is still in existence, right underneath the Damascus gate. You have the main corridor, which is in existence today. You have, of course, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. These are the famous stairs that when people visit the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, they have to go down through a set of stairs. These are the stairs. And we have several other locations, like this is Jaffa Gate, and we have the main street that connected what we call the Decomanos, that connected between Jaffa Gate down to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And there's one thing that is missing. If you look very carefully, there's nothing here. So this area right over here is Temple Mount, but there's nothing there. Why? In the Christian understanding, in order to fulfill the prophecies of Jesus, that this place will be completely destroyed, the Byzantine built nothing on Temple Mount. We have chronicles from the time of the Byzantine describing this place as a complete desolate place. This was basically the dump yard of Jerusalem. Interestingly enough, most of the structures in Jerusalem today are originated from Temple Mount, and I will explain. A lot of the columns that you'll see today that are dated to the Byzantine period were not built by the Byzantine. They were taken from Temple Mount, and Temple Mount was used as a quarry to build many structures in Jerusalem, including the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, including the Cordo, including the Decomanos, including many Ayat Zion, many structures in the city today are basically coming from Temple Mount. At the year 638 AD, we have Omar ibn Khattab, who is one of the caliphates, conquering Jerusalem, and he basically pointed Jerusalem to be one of the most important places for Islam. We have to remember, Jerusalem does not appear in the Quran, not even once. The Arabic name of Jerusalem is either Al-Quds, the Holy One, or Medinat al-Bayt al-Maqdis, which means the city of the house of God, our God. It was more and more understandable that this is Al-Aqsa, meaning the further out. According to the Muslim belief, Muhammad, after his nightly journey, the Maharaj, went up to heaven on his horse, El Buwak, from a place called El Aqsa. Now, this is politics. Omar ibn Khattab needed to explain to his soldiers why they should attack such a huge and well fortified city. There has to be a good enough reason. And that good enough reason, of course, came in the form of religion. And Umar ibn Khattab said, this is the place of Al Aqsa. This is where Muhammad ascended to heaven. So the Muslims conquered Jerusalem in the year 638 AD. And a little bit after that, around the year 691 AD, one of the earliest Muslim structures were erected on Temple Mount. And this is, of course, the Dome of the Rock, not Al Aqsa. This is the Dome of the Rock. Al Aqsa is the Silver Dome, which is on the south side of Temple Mount. Interestingly enough, about the Dome of the Rock is actually a Byzantine structure. When you look at the layout of the Dome of the Rock, it's an octagonal shape. Octagon was a widely used structure in the Byzantine world. We have to remember that when the Muslim controlled Israel, when they invaded into the Holy Land, most of them did not know how to build magnificent structures. They came from the desert of the Arab Peninsula. They used local builders and local engineers to erect this building, which is, of course, one of the oldest Muslim structures in existence. And they built it right on top of a special rock right here, which is called the foundation rock. This rock was actually at our temple as well. This is the bedrock of Mount Moriah, which, according to our tradition, this is the place of the binding of Isaac. So that is why this is called the Dome of the Rock of foundation. One of the main reasons also why the Muslims decided to build one of the first structures up on Temple Mount is to disprove the prophecy of Jesus. Jesus said, of course, there will be no stone on stone in this place, and the Muslims want to prove him otherwise in kind of to give a spike to the Christians. So that's why this is one of the first Muslim structures ever being built in the world. And this is, of course, the Dome of the Rock, not Al Aqsa. This was the case until the year 1099 AD. In the year 1099, before that, between 638 and 1099, we have what we call the Umayyak Kingdom, or the Umayyak dynasty, a set of kings that controlled around the 7th and 8th century AD. And they basically were the greatest builders of Temple Mount. So we have here a diagram that we can see how the temple, our temple, used to be right where the Dome of the Rock is today. Let's look very carefully. This is Solomon Temple, which was on the foundation rock. On top of that, we have, after that, the second temple, which was built exactly the same on the foundation rock. And of course, the Dome of the Rock, which was built on the foundation rock. And here's the foundation rock. If you see very carefully, you can see, if you look very carefully, you can see the square, the box that we spoke about in the last presentation that was built by King Herod, which was not there during the time of Solomon. When the Muslim conquered Temple Mount, we need to remember that this box is intact. For those of you who didn't see the last presentation, all the four walls are dated to the time of Jesus. So how come the Western Wall is the most important? Because the Western Wall, you can see here, this is even better. The Western Wall is the closest to the Holies of Holies. That is why the Western Wall is the most important. All the other retaining wall are in situ. They're still there. This is the Southern Steps, the Hulda Gate. We can see this today. Here, what happened was when the Umayyak Kingdom, a dynasty, built the Dome of the Rock, they also built Al Aqsa, which is the Silver Dome. The Silver Dome is built on top of the Royal Basilica, and most of the stones of Al Aqsa are actually belonging to the temple. There are secondary use, especially you can see that in the columns when you're going to be there. At the south end of the Temple Mount, instead of what used to be the Hulda Gate, the main entrances into the temple, the Umayyak built a set of magnificent palaces in order to control the Temple Mount. All of this was built around, as we said again, the foundation stone. This is the temple. This is the Dome of the Rock from above, inside, from above the dome. This is the foundation stone, and this is a picture was taken around the 19th century. It's a drawing of Roberts showing the same thing that we have here, the Muslim prayer in front of the foundation stone. In the year 1099, we have the First Crusade arriving into Jerusalem and conquering the city in July of 1099. And what happened right a little bit after the establishment of the Kingdom of Jerusalem, around the year 1004, 1104, we have two monks that joined together with 7 monks. We have 9 monks that basically formed one of the strongest and most notorious orders in history of Christendom, and this, of course, will be the Templar Knights. Templar Knights based their headquarters at Mount Moriah, at the Temple Mount, hence their name, Templars. Templars come from temple, our temple. And on the top of the Dome of the Rock, they put a cross calling Templum Domini, which means the temple of our Lord. They've done a series of construction at Temple Mount that resonates until today. This is a very rare footages. Those two are very rare footages of the Hulda Gate. If you remember in the last presentation, we spoke about how the main entrance into the temple was from the south. These are the three gates that entered into the temple and basically reached into a tunnel, arched tunnel, and then went up to Temple Mount. Why we have those tunnels? Because if you remember, when Herod built the box around Temple Mount, he basically used archers in order to retain the mountain. So these arches made a lot of space underneath them, and these are the tunnels that we see right there. These are the Solomon stables that were used by they were called Solomon stables by the Templars because they thought that these are stables. Why? The gates of the temple were sealed. We have to remember, in the time of Jesus, this was open. He could have entered straight into the temple from the south, from the main entrance. In the time of the Umayyak Kingdom, they were sealed, and the only entrance into Temple Mount was moved to the north and to the west. What happened was that these corridors, these arched corridors, are the main entrance from the time of Jesus, and was used basically as stables and storages until about 20 years ago, when the Islamic Waqf basically tried to erase the memory of Herod, turn it into a huge underground mosque. So these are the Solomon stables, and that were used, again, they were not stables in the time of Solomon. They was not there in the time of Solomon. They were used by the Templars as stables, and hence their names. When you look again at the entrance, look at this. This is a drawing that was made by Roberts. That's how it looked like up until about 150 years ago. If we see the complex of Temple Mount right over here, this is, of course, from the time of Jesus. Look very carefully. Right here, it's a set of stairs, which is right here. Today, by the way, you can visit those set of stairs. When you visit in Jerusalem, this is what we call the Davidson Center. City Wall is here today, cuts right over here, and you can sit on those stairs. These are the stairs at the end of the stair of ascent, of the road of ascent. So people used to go from these main doors into these corridors and then up into the temple. These corridors and these gates were sealed, and then the inner chambers were used by the Templars as storages and as stables. We're now entering into the late Muslim period. In the year 1250 AD, we have a new dynasty which is called the Mamluk. Mamluk Muslim dynasty that are based in Cairo, and they basically went and destroyed the remain of the Crusader kingdom that was destroyed in the year 1187 by Saladin. But we did had some pockets in the land of Israel, mainly on the coast. There were Christian pockets such as Al-Suf, such as Acre, and Sidon, and so on and so forth. In 1250, the Emperor Baibars, who was a Muslim emperor, basically destroyed the remain of the Crusader kingdom. What happened was, this is the map of Jerusalem from the Umayyak Kingdom. So I'm sorry, from the Mamluk period. Look very carefully. We have, of course, the citadel of Zion. We have Mount Zion, which is outside the city walls. We have the Armenian quarter. We have the Temple Mount. We do not have right here City of David, and there is no wall. At the time of the Mamluks, there was no wall around the city. There was a wall at the time of the Crusades. The city walls today are basically built on the foundation of the Crusades, which are built on the foundation of the Romans. But In the Mamluk period, there were no walls. The reason why, the Muslims were very afraid of another crusade. And their agenda was that a half built castle is also half defendable. So they said, we're going to erase all the walls of Jerusalem, we're going to take them down, and Jerusalem will be with no walls until the year 1517. Something very unique happened during the time of the Mamluks. If you remember, on the west side of the temple, we had the central ravine, the Theropeon. We had two main entrances. One is the Robinson Arch, which is right here, and the other one is right here, which is called the Wilson Arch. What the Mamluks did, they actually built arches. These are the arches that the Mamluks built in order to basically cover and bury that ravine, this Theropeon. So today, the entire Muslim quarter, if you look at this, the entire Muslim quarter is built on arches. There are arches between the Muslim quarter and Temple Mount, and that's why they're built adjacent to the Western Wall to get support. Okay, let's look at this again. This was in the time of Jesus. There was a clear ravine between the city and the temple, and this is at the time of the Mamluks, which gave the look of the Muslim quarter today. Muslim quarter is built, a lot of it is built on arches that basically covered the ravine. Today, this will be called the rabbinical tunnels or the Western Wall tunnels. We will walk in the Western Wall tunnels. We are going to walk along the main Western Wall, the whole Western Wall, all the way to the area of the Pool of Bethesda. So this was the case between the year 1517, between 1250 and then till 1517. In 1517, the Turks came over and conquered Israel and the entire Levant, the entire Middle East. And basically what they did, they kept the situation of the Mamluk as is. That's why today the Muslim quarter is one of the most intact medieval Muslim cities in the world. They did, though, add the wall around the city of Jerusalem. So in the year 1536, give or take, Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent built the walls that we see today in Jerusalem. These are Ottoman walls. They're not old. These walls are dated to 1536 AD. So for 400 years, this is, again, a drawing of the city, how it looked like around 150 years ago. If you can see, only within this here was the city of David, right here. All of this was the city of David in the time of Jesus, and of course, before him. This wall was, again, from the time of the revolt. Now it was used later on. And this wall right over here, in the time of Jesus, was not in existence. This wall was actually way down south, including Mount Zion. Mount Zion, as you can see, is outside the city walls. When you look at the drawing, nothing really changed much in those 400 years. Basically, the Turks, apart from the beginning of their conquest in 1536, basically after they built the city walls, they didn't add much to Jerusalem. So a lot of the structures that you will see today in Jerusalem are not necessarily Ottoman. There will be Crusade. Of course, they will be biblical. There will be Crusade, there will be Byzantine, there will be Mamluk, but not so much Turkish. This, by the way, is a view from Mount of Olives to the city today, to the city. If you go there today, it's going to see a completely different view. Interesting fact about the Western Wall. Since the Muslim found no importance to the Western Wall, the access to the Western Wall was very difficult. Today, you have a big plaza of people that would like to pray and to be close to God can use that plaza. It's actually one of the biggest open plazas, if not the biggest one in the entire old city. Under the regime of the Turks and a little bit before them, there was a full neighborhood. That neighborhood was, again, a part of the Mamluk construction and basically left a very small gap for the Jews to go and pray at the Western Wall. Interestingly enough, when you look at the amount of people that could gather next to the Western Wall was almost nothing. And one of the first things that Israel did in 1967 was basically to clear this neighborhood. We'll speak about this in a second. This is Jerusalem during the British Mandate. In 1917, General Allenby, 1917 AD, General Allenby walks into Jerusalem and basically reads the Bill of Rights for all religion to be living in coexistence in the old city. This picture was taken around 1936, a little bit before that. I would like you to pay attention very carefully. Look at this. This is Al-Aqsa, okay? This is the Dome of the Rock, which is gray. It's not gold. It was covered in gold only in the 60s by the Kingdom of Jordan. Up until then, it was gray. And look at this. There's no City of David, nothing. There's no southern excavation. The entire southern excavation that we go and visit today doesn't exist. You see that? There's barely any tombs here from the time from the Muslim cemetery, which is on the eastern part of Temple Mount. So when we look at pictures of the British Mandate, barely 100 years ago, the city, the entire inhabitants of the city back then was less than 20,000 people. Most of them were Jews, by the way. Most of the city, which is right here, the Western city, most of it was Jewish. Israel lost the old city in 1948. We'll talk about this in a second. So this is how the city looked like in 1948. You can see the neighborhood I was talking about. This is the Western Wall. This is here Mount of Olives. Today it's all built up. And in 1948, all the Jewish access to the wall was this little sliver between the neighborhood of the Mugrabis and the Western Wall. Today, all of this chunk has been cleared after 1967. This is a picture of an aerial view that was taken by an Israeli plane in 1967. And this is here where they started to clear the entrance to the Western Wall. When you're going to arrive today to Temple Mount, you are going to walk on a wooden palisade, a wooden ramp. The basic starts from here. There's a bridge connecting to the Temple Mount right over here. Now you can see why there is a bridge. The bridge will start here. In this picture, will start over here and go over these ruins. The bridge was built right on top of the neighborhood that was destroyed by Israel in 1967 in order to clear a path for the people to come and pray in the Western Wall Plaza. If you look at current days today, here's the wooden palisade I was just talking about. You see that? This wooden palisade is basically built on top of what was left of the western of the Mugrabis neighborhood. You can see the excavation, the southern excavation. These are the remains of the palace of the Umayyak Kingdom. And right here is the Solomon stables. If we're going to take this picture that was taken about 5 years ago, if we take this picture and compare it to what it looked like in the time of Jesus, look at the main differences. Right here are the main entrances. These are the gates, Hulda gates. Here they are. It's the same thing. It's excavated and you can visit it today. These are the entrances right here. And from here with the tunnels, these are the Solomon stable. Royal Basilica of Jesus will be Al-Aqsa of today. Here is the main ravine, the Theropeon, the ravine of the stairs of ascent, which is here. There it is. And we can still see here today the remain of the arch of Robinson Arch, which is here. This is Robinson Arch. Oops, sorry. This is Robinson Arch. Holies of Holies over here. Dome of the Rock, right over here. Now, again, as you can see very clearly, in the time of Jesus, there was the ravine, and there was nothing built adjacent to the Western Wall. Here, you do not see the ravine because, see this? The entire Muslim quarter is built on those arches that was built by the Mamluks. So again, another view that we can have a conclusion for us to understand. This is the west side, the south side, the east side, the north side. South side, again, look very carefully. Here, there's no, there's nothing. There's no main entrance to the temple. Here you can definitely see the main entrance. On the west side, no Robinson Arch and the ramp. Here, Robinson Arch, then the ramp will go like this. Okay. Here, there's no Antonia. In the time of Jesus, of course, there was the Antonia. And today, the Muslim quarter that was built by the Mamluks is built in adjacent to the wall. Right here, in the time of Jesus, this was empty with no structures. Thank you so much for joining to this presentation. The next, as I said before, the first lecture, if you have any topic that you would like me to speak about And to give you a little bit of explanation, please send us an email to info@tbctl.com or just write on our Facebook page, and we will try to accommodate your questions. Thank you so much again for joining in. Shalom and blessings from the Ela Valley.